Now, Argentina has released official poverty data for the first time in 3 years, and it's shocking. Nearly 1 in 3 Argentinians is living below the poverty line. A previous report had suggested less than 5% were impoverished. So why the big change? Charlotte Dubenskij takes a look.
When Mauricio Macri ran for office last year, he promised to deliver the economic stability Argentina was crying out for. He pledged to remove import restrictions and currency controls, but his #1 goal was zero poverty. So this latest data showing the extent of the problem has hit hard.
Clearly, this is a blow for us to know that 1 in 3 live below the poverty line. This is something that pains us, that should pressure us to commit to working together so that day by day this situation can be fixed. We are called to this path together towards zero poverty.
Since gaining power, Macri has attempted to overhaul the economy. The peso was devalued and price controls were loosened. While those moves may have won over the international community, it was Argentinians who bore the brunt. Though interest rates rose, so too did inflation. Public payrolls were cut, increasing unemployment, swelling the ranks of the poor. 3 years ago, disputed government data suggested less than 5% of the population lived in poverty. This latest report surveyed more than 27 million people. It found 8.8 million were below the poverty line. That's 32%. That means they're living on less than $1.90 a day. While Macri may have inherited many of the country's problems from the former government of President Cristina Fernández de Kirchner, his promises of a swift turnaround haven't yet borne fruit. But he remains adamant that his difficult-to-swallow medicine will heal the economy.
The correct path is the one we've taken. We all need to understand the limits on our lives of living below inflation and the strength that we need to demonstrate to achieve a reduction in inflation.
Back in April, Macri set his own deadline to prove his policies could remedy the country's woes, the second half of this year. With the deadline now close to passing and no relief in sight, the president's honeymoon is well and truly over. Charlotte Dubenskij, TRT World.
Well, for more on this, we're joined by Fausto Spotorno. He joins us live from Buenos Aires. He's a chief economist at Orlando Ferreras and Associates. Fausto, thank you very much for joining us on Money Talks. I just want to start with how you would rate Macri's stewardship of the economy so far.
Well, so far the government has improved some space of the economy. For example, they improved the exchange rate market. You know that in the last government there were currency controls, so you cannot import or buy things in dollar or import things. You have to ask permission to import and to export. And of course, those kind of measures caused that the economy was in a fake exchange rate market. You know, the exchange rate was $9 per peso, 9 pesos per dollar, but nobody can buy it at that price. So the new government decided to eliminate all those controls and also control to export. There was a lot of controls to export, like meat, milk, some wheat, for example, or corn, and those restrictions were put in there to stop inflation. But of course, when you eliminate all these restrictions, inflation goes up.
Right. So what's the cure then? Because the inflation is what's doing the harm, isn't it, to the ordinary Argentinian?
Yes, of course. Well, when this new government decided to eliminate all these restrictions, inflation goes high very fast. By April, we have an inflation of 46% annual rate. So this is, of course, generate a lot of poverty. The poverty was in December 29%, according to a Catholic university. That was the only measure that we have of poverty at that point. The last government decided to stop issuing reports about poverty because then their numbers were so fake. That
so this is actually an improvement in transparency then, Fausto?
Of course.
Okay, look, if you were advising him on how to reach his goal of zero poverty, what would you suggest he should make his priorities right now?
Well, the priorities are stop inflation, of course. Inflation causes more poverty. Second of all is increase the employment. Argentina is not generating employment since 2011. All the employment that was generated in the last 4 years was public employment for the government. And the third one is, to me, you have to invest in infrastructure and education. Clearly, Argentina education is relatively good, but it's not getting better, it's getting worse. And that is a thing that we have to recreate and rebuild all the education system.
Fausto Spotorno, thank you for joining us from Buenos Aires. Much appreciated.